Rime is a puzzle platformer that was initially known as Echo of Sirens when it was still being funded by Microsoft. However, Microsoft wasn't too happy with where the project was going and they pulled funding. This would be the first in a long string of development issues. Sony almost immediately picked up funding where Microsoft left off. The caveat to which would be that Rime would now be an exclusive for Sony's new PlayStation 4 home console. The first trailer for the game was revealed at Gamescom in 2013. And this trailer captivated the imagination of gamers around the world. However, there was something hidden beneath the surface of this trailer that Sony discovered just a year before the game was to be released. The trailer provided to initially showcase the game were just a collection of events handcrafted to look good in a trailer. When Sony took a look, they realized the developers were trying to shoehorn these experiences into a game world, and that the game itself didn't exactly exist. Fearing false promises, Sony pulled out of their funding and put the IP back up for sale. In 2016, Tequila Works purchased back their IP and eventually made the game multi-platform to all major home consoles and PC in May 2017. On May 26, 2017, Rime officially released. But did all those years in development hell and pull funding take a toll on the game? Was Sony right to back out? Was this a sign of bad things to come? Let's find out. So what is it about Rime that had us all so intrigued? If I make a list of games, say Ico, Shadow of the Colossus, Wind Waker, Okami, Journey, chances are you've played at least one of these games. And if you enjoyed one of those games, chances are you've been hoping another game of a similar nature would come along and be just as impressive. Many games have made the promise of being a spiritual successor to those games, taking lots of inspiration from them, but have failed to impress. However, all controversy aside, Rime came along making those same promises and actually seemed more likely to deliver than any game has before. So did it live up to its promises? Let's take a look at the game. Rime is a puzzle platformer whose main character looks almost identical to that of Ico's. In fact, the setting we first see him on is almost identical to Ico. Considering this, there's almost no chance we can't invite the comparison. You wash up on a beach in the beginning and your only goal, so far as you could tell, is to follow this little fox around and progress to what's an otherwise unknown destination. You run about in a large world with no story directly told to you. Your character is borderline mute, as in that he never fully speaks a sentence. This is true of the whole game, however. There is no dialogue in Rime beyond that of your main character shouting, "Hey!", grunting, humming, or screaming, which works as one of your main gameplay mechanics. In Rime, you can do very few things. You can move, but not run. There is only one travel speed. You can jump, roll, and yell. And that's really it. Jumping, of course, is going to be useful, as this game's main exploration elements revolve around you scaling monolithic structures in a fantastical and colorful world. Everywhere you go, there are conveniently placed ledges caked in bird shit to facilitate your exploration. I don't know if this is actually supposed to be bird shit, it's just, you know, it looks like it. The first time I ever seen one of these ledges, there was lots of seagulls around, so the image just kinda stuck. Your roll mechanic honestly feels almost useless. The only time I made use of it is if I was running across a long stretch of land and wanted to spice up how traveling felt. Your yelling mechanic is the most useful in puzzle solving. Environment artifacts containing power can be activated or have their power transferred to another item via yelling at it. All the puzzles in the game really revolve around the transfer of power or items, and occasionally revolve around staying hidden or otherwise out of sight and safe. You may notice I've said nothing about combat. Well, that's because there isn't any. In fact, that's the biggest deviation this game has from Ico. And I'm not exactly complaining, because in my honest opinion, the combat in Ico was kinda garbage. Enemies are a bit of a rarity in this game. There's only one enemy in the game that poses a credible threat in which you just stay hidden from him, There are other enemies late game that can kill you, but the purpose of them is really just to guide your pace moving forward or to act as a puzzle to get around. There is no combat in any way, shape, or form in Rime. The monolithic design of the world is dripping in majesty, but it doesn't quite reach the heights of Ico. I think in large part it's because the game is sectioned off into pieces, where Ico was one large interconnected world. In both games, the dungeons serve as a large serpentine puzzle, but Ico is simply on a much grander scale and pulls it off with more tact, but that isn't to say that Rime hasn't done an amazing job. The graphic style of the game really plays to the game's tonal strength. While the textures in the game are severely lacking in some areas, the lighting, weather, particle effects, and a musical score on par with that of Journey's absolutely sets the mood. However, I do have a couple issues here. Some textures were so lacking, I honestly thought at the start one of the mechanics of the game would be repainting the world. And while some objects do get colored in as the game goes along, it's nothing like what I thought it would be. Additionally, at least twice throughout the game, due to a result of loading between areas, the music and sound cut out. Not a huge deal as it corrected itself rather quickly, but hopefully something they fixed with a patch. The story is told through occasional flashbacks and environment details, relying heavily on metaphor and allegory to convey its point. Some bits and pieces can be uncovered through well-hidden collectibles throughout the game world that I highly recommend searching out, but if you can't be bothered to search high and low, the internet can surely fill you in on what you miss. Not all of the story will make sense to you, and not all of the metaphors can be pieced together prior to reaching the end of the game, or without a great deal of thought following the game's completion. I won't spoil the game or its story except to say that despite all these bright visuals and the overall pleasant feel of exploring, the story is very dark, very sad, and quite relatable. Prior to its release, I pegged this as a game people would pretentiously overrate because they didn't want to be accused of not getting it if they rated it low. The game completely circumvented that accusation of mine by basically shattering all illusions and spoon-feeding you the theme completely and bluntly right at the end. Even if you don't get all the metaphors, you'll definitely get the story. Prior to release, the game got pretty favorable reviews, with the exceptions of a couple such as IGN and GameSpot. One complaint I heard in a couple different places that I take a huge issue with was that the puzzles were frustrating. I don't remember which reviewer claimed this, but I'd like to meet them and punch them in the schnoz. They have to be a complete idiot to think this game was frustrating. If you've any modicum of logic or any experience with logic puzzles or puzzle platformers, you will not have trouble with this game. In fact, if you look at your environment, they almost always tell you exactly what you need to accomplish to progress via wall and floor paintings. This will lead me into one of only two major caveats I had with this game. I say this game is easy because I sat down and played it leisurely. Over the course of 5.5 to 6 hours in one sitting, I walked straight from the beginning of the game to the end with no troubles. This game is rather short and rather simple, but it is half the cost of a standard retail game, and at 6 hours with collectibles you can go back to get to expand your experience, I do think it was worth the cost. If you just pay attention to what's around you and keep moving forward, you'll finish this game no problem. Now that I know how to beat it, I'm sure I could finish the game in 4 hours or less, but my first leisurely playthrough took 5.5 to 6 hours. My other one major caveat, and this is a big one, it has performance issues up the ass. This game performs like dog shit. The game tries really hard to disguise its load times or simply not have them. Unfortunately, this leads to huge frame rate issues. In my entire 80-hour playthrough of Breath of the Wild, a game notorious for its frame rate issues, I never hit anything like I did with Rime. It's important to know I played this on PS4, the system the game was in development for the longest, but I hear even on PC it has major issues. A couple instances had me feeling my game was going to hard crash, and I might end up in a situation like I did with Alekine's gun, and my save file get corrupted because of the crash. Given how light the game is on textures, and the fact that the sectioned off pieces of the world really aren't that large or populated compared to other games, I truly believe this to be an optimization issue more than anything, and hopefully with patches they can fix this. After beating the game, you can do a level select, look through galleries and collectibles, and rerun levels to collect more and fill in more of the backstory. I won't show you the level select screen here because the names of the levels will make the metaphors too obvious to a new player, and I'd rather you, the gamer, find out the metaphor for yourself. Overall, I did truly love this game, and I'm glad to have been wrong about it. If you have any intent on getting it yourself, pay attention to the patch notes, and if it doesn't get patched, wait for a good sale. That's all I really gotta say about this, so, as always guys, thanks for watching. Hey, so you guys are still here. Welcome to the end of the video. If you're still here, that means you get to hear a little bit more of the end theme I composed for this channel, but you also get to hear a little bit of the special message here. I don't really do subscriber specials or anything, but I really want to say thanks. We're about to hit 300 soon. I know that doesn't sound like a lot to many people, but it's more than I ever thought I would get with my channel. So I just want to extend my sincerest thanks to all of you. Ronnie, Sasuke, Skeletor, Messiah, Claydom, Sonic X Sam, Bomberny TV, Crimson Fantasy, Staggertron, Radical Reggie, Red Thirds, Dimension Gaming, Zach B, Alfalco, sorry if I fucked that name up, Wayne Kuhn, all of you OGs who stuck around from the start when my content was significantly shit, and last but not least, Basket Casey. And on that note, actually, I recently helped Basket Casey with his review of the Nintendo Switch. I'm going to put a link at the end title card if you want to check that out. So guys, I know I missed a lot of names here. I can't really name 300 people, and a lot of you have left an impression on me. All the comments you guys leave, positive, negative, constructive, you know, I appreciate all of them. Honestly, you guys have made this channel much more than I ever thought it would be. So, my sincerest gratitude to all of you.